The sky above Lyranine was a swirl of violet and silver, the cosmic storm painting streaks of light across the dark void. Commander Yalencourt stepped off the small shuttle, his boots crunching on the icy surface of the isolated research station. The station was far from any major human settlement. Weeks of travel separated it from the nearest colony. Yet here he was, summoned by a cryptic distress signal that had appeared on his console without warning. Lyrane's structure was imposing. Its steel frame rose like a fortress, punctuated by glowing windows that flickered in the storm. Despite the station's age and remote location, it had a strange elegance, functional yet proud, like a monument to human perseverance. Jalen's eyes scanned the surface, noting the small details, frost clinging to the outer panels, small vents puffing clouds of vapor into the storm, and the soft hum of generators struggling to maintain power. He stepped into the main airlock. The doors hissed closed behind him, sealing him off from the storm outside. Inside, the station smelled of recycled air, warm metal, and faint chemical tang, a mix that made Yolan feel simultaneously uneasy and alert. He adjusted the strap of his utility pack and began walking down the narrow corridor. "Commander Core," a voice called out softly. Yolan paused, his hand instinctively resting on the side of his jacket. A woman emerged from the shadows of a side corridor. Her hair was dark and slightly disheveled, and her eyes held the sharp alertness of someone used to working alone. She wore a simple uniform, though the insignia on her sleeve was faded, as if the station had seen long years without visitors. "You shouldn't be alone tonight," she said, her voice carrying both warning and weariness. Yolan studied her for a moment. There was something in her eyes, a mix of fear and resolve that made him trust her instinctively. "Then stay with me, please," he replied, a small smile forming at the corner of his lips. She hesitated, then nodded. "I'm Dr. Alara Miles," she said, extending her hand. Yolan shook it firmly, noting the grip was steady and confident despite the tension around them. "I'll guide you through the station, but you should know. Things have been strange here for the past few nights. Lights flicker, equipment fails, and sometimes we hear things. Sounds that shouldn't exist." Jalen's brow furrowed. "Sounds like a power surge or maybe a system malfunction?" he asked, though his voice lacked conviction. Something in the way she said it suggested there was more than mechanical failure. Ilara led him through the corridors, pointing out the areas where the station's systems were acting up. Lights dimmed and brightened in irregular patterns, and small sparks occasionally shot from exposed panels. Yolan examined the control consoles, tapping into the station's interface with practiced ease. Even with his expertise, he could not find the source of the anomaly. "The storm outside is affecting the energy field," Lara suggested, though she sounded unsure. "But I've never seen anything like this. It's almost alive." Yolan looked at her, surprised. "Alive?" She nodded slowly. "Sometimes it feels like the storm is watching, like it knows we're here." He paused, taking in her words. The rational part of his mind dismissed it as stress and isolation. But another part, a part that had seen strange things in deep space, refused to ignore the feeling of unease creeping over him. They arrived at the station's main observation deck. Large windows offered a breathtaking view of the storm beyond. Jagged streaks of violet lightning cut across the void, illuminating the swirling clouds of cosmic dust. For a moment, Yolan forgot the danger and simply stared. There was beauty here, raw and untamed. A reminder of the universe's power and mystery. "I've been alone here for months," Alara admitted, breaking the silence. "Most days it's just the hum of the generators and the sound of my own footsteps. I didn't expect anyone to come." Yolan turned to her, sensing the vulnerability beneath her words. "I'm here now," he said quietly. "You won't have to face it alone." Her lips curved into a faint smile. "Thank you," she whispered, almost to herself. Suddenly the station shuddered. A low, resonating hum filled the corridors, vibrating through the metal walls and floors. Lights flickered violently, and the temperature seemed to drop several degrees. Yolan and Yalara exchanged a glance in unspoken understanding that this was more than a simple power failure. "Let's check the reactor," Yolan suggested. He followed her down a side corridor toward the heart of the station. The hum grew louder, almost like a pulse, and the air felt heavy, charged with energy as they walked. Small panels along the walls began to glow with strange symbols, patterns that shifted and changed as if alive. Yalan reached out to touch one, but the surface was cool and smooth, almost too perfect to be natural. "What? What is this?" he asked. Ilara shook her head. "I don't know. I've never seen anything like it. The previous crew left these markings behind, but there's no record of why or how they appeared." They entered the reactor room, where the main energy core stood like a glowing heart. The core pulsed with an unusual rhythm, matching the hum that filled the station. Yalan examined the readings on the nearby consoles. The energy levels were fluctuating in patterns he had never encountered. Almost as if the core itself were conscious. "This is impossible," he muttered. "No human technology should behave like this." Ilara stepped closer, her eyes wide with awe and fear. "It's beautiful," she whispered, "and terrifying." A sudden jolt threw them off balance, and the room's lights went out. Emergency lighting flickered on, casting long shadows across the walls. The hum intensified, vibrating in their chests, and a strange pressure seemed to press against their minds, as if the station itself were aware of their presence. Yalan gripped her shoulder. "Stay close. Whatever this is, we face it together." Lara nodded, her hand finding his. The touch was grounding, a reminder of their shared humanity in the face of the unknown. For the first time in months, she felt hope, not just fear. The storm outside roared, lightning striking the station's outer panels, sending shudders through the structure. Yet inside, despite the fear and uncertainty, there was a spark of determination. Humans had faced the unknown before on distant worlds in deep space, against impossible odds. And here, on this lonely station at the edge of the galaxy, that resilience was about to shine once more as they moved deeper into the station. Exploring the reactor and other systems, Yalan felt a strange connection to this place. It was as if the station itself were a living entity, challenging them, testing them, and waiting to see if humanity could rise to meet it. "You shouldn't be alone tonight," Ilara whispered again. Almost reflexively, Yalan glanced at her, feeling the weight of her words. "Then I'll stay," he said firmly, "and we'll face whatever comes together." Outside, the storm continued to rage, a reminder of the vast universe beyond. But inside Lyra 9, two humans stood united, ready to confront the mysteries that awaited them. Their journey had only just begun, and the night promised both danger and discovery in the quiet that followed. The station's hum seemed to soften, almost in acknowledgement. For now, at least, they were not alone and in the darkness that made all the difference. The hum of Laronan's energy core still lingered in the corridors, vibrating softly beneath Jalen's boots as he followed Dr. Ilara Miles deeper into the station. Despite the strange patterns they had seen at the reactor, the commander tried to focus on the practical side of the situation. Systems were failing, and they needed answers. Yet, something about the station's atmosphere made even the most routine task feel unsettling. "Every time I pass this corridor, it feels different," Ilara whispered, her voice almost lost in the hum. "Like the walls themselves are watching me." Yalan glanced at her. "It's probably just your mind playing tricks. We've both been traveling too long, too far from anything familiar. Isolation does that." She shook her head. "No, it's more than that." He wanted to argue, but he understood. Being alone on Lyra 9 for months could make anyone feel that way. The lights flickered again, casting elongated shadows across the metal walls. The shadows moved strangely, sometimes stretching in ways that didn't match the physical geometry of the station, I'll admit. Yalan said, "This is unusual, but I still think there's a logical explanation. Let's check the communication systems next. Maybe the anomaly is affecting them." They reached the communications hub, a small room filled with old consoles and blinking monitors. A thin layer of frost clung to the edges of the screens, evidence of the station's aging thermal systems. Yalan tapped into the main console, running diagnostic programs while Ilara observed. "Most of the systems show normal readings," he muttered, "but the signal log, It's corrupted in multiple layers. Something is interfering with the station's ability to record or transmit information. Ilara leaned closer, her finger tracing a strange line across a blinking screen. "Look at this," she said. The corrupted data formed irregular shapes, patterns that shifted and seemed almost intentional. "It's like it's trying to communicate." Yalan raised an eyebrow. "Communicate? With what?" "I don't know," Ilara admitted, frowning. "But whatever it is, it's intelligent. I can feel it." Before Yalan could respond, a sudden crash echoed through the corridors behind them. Both of them spun around, hands instinctively reaching for weapons and tools. "It came from the storage bay," Ilara said. They moved quickly, footsteps echoing on the metal floor. The storage bay doors had buckled slightly, and inside rows of crates were scattered. Some were overturned, others cracked open. Their contents a mixture of research equipment and supplies, spilling onto the floor. Jelen frowned. "No one should have been here." "I checked the security logs." "Then, what caused this?" Ilara asked, her voice tight. They stepped cautiously among the crates. A low hiss came from the shadows. Yalan raised his flashlight, scanning the room. For a moment, they saw nothing. Then, a flicker in the corner, a shadow moving against the flow of light made them freeze. "It's not an animal," Yalan whispered. "And it's not human." Lara swallowed hard. "We need to document it. Maybe it's connected to the anomaly. Maybe it's part of the station itself." Yalan nodded. He retrieved a small handheld scanner, sweeping the area for energy readings. The device beeped wildly as they approached a dark corner. The reading was off the charts, unlike anything they had seen before. Suddenly, the lights in the storage bay went out completely, leaving them in near total darkness. The hum of the station intensified, vibrating through the walls and floor like a pulse. Yalan felt a cold shiver travel up his spine. "Stay close," he whispered. "Whatever this is, it's aware of us." A faint glow began to emerge from the walls themselves. Lines of light, similar to the markings they had seen in the reactor room, started to form, stretching and twisting like living ribbons. The patterns moved toward them, almost like tendrils. Hovering just above the ground, Ilara stepped forward, fascinated despite the fear. "It's beautiful," she murmured. "And alive." Yalan grabbed her arm. "We need to be careful. We don't know what it's capable of." The glowing tendrils coalesced into a shape hovering in front of them. For a moment, it looked like a figure, humanoid but translucent, shifting as if made of light and energy. It emitted a soft, melodic hum that resonated in their minds, not their ears. Jalen's heart raced. "It's trying to communicate," he said. Ilara nodded slowly. "We have to respond." Slowly, carefully, she reached out a hand, and the shape mirrored her movement, pulsing in recognition. Hours passed as they experimented with gestures, sounds, and simple lights, trying to establish a pattern of communication. The entity responded, mimicking some actions, avoiding others. It was intelligent, cautious, but curious. At one point, the entity extended a tendril toward a console. Data streamed across the monitors in patterns they could barely comprehend. Yalan watched in awe. "It's teaching us, or showing us something." Lara's eyes shone with excitement. "It's like the station itself has a mind. Like it's alive in a way we never imagined." The connection was short-lived. A violent tremor shook the station, throwing both of them off balance. Alarms blared as emergency lights flickered. The entity pulsed rapidly, almost as if in warning, before retreating into the walls. Jalen got to his feet first. The storm outside, it's affecting it. Whatever this is, it's sensitive to the energy in the atmosphere. Ilara nodded, brushing frost from her uniform. "But we've made contact. It knows we're here. That's important." They paused in the corridor outside the storage bay, catching their breath. The hum had returned to a lower, steady rhythm. The station seemed to settle. Jalen looked at her, noticing the fatigue in her expression. "You've been alone here for months. How have you survived this?" Ilara smiled faintly, though it didn't reach her eyes. We humans adapt. We survive in the coldest, darkest, most dangerous places. We find ways to endure. He nodded. And even when everything seems against us, we keep going. That's what sets us apart. She looked at him, her gaze steady. And sometimes that means trusting someone else. You, staying here. It's more than just help. It's hope. The corridors remained quiet, save for the hum and the faint creaks of the station adjusting to the storm outside. Yalin considered the path ahead. There was much to discover. The anomaly, the station's strange intelligence, and the secrets left behind by its previous crew. They had only scratched the surface. Let's keep moving, he said. We should check the living quarters and labs. If the anomaly is affecting systems here, it might have left clues in the research data. Ilara nodded, taking his hand briefly for reassurance. They moved down the corridors together, alert for any further disturbances. The shadows in the corners seemed less menacing with two people, yet they remained cautious. Every sound, every flicker of light demanded attention. As they entered the main lab, Yalin scanned the room. Tables were cluttered with equipment, some still running despite the power fluctuations. Small monitors displayed streams of data, some readable, others corrupted with the strange shifting symbols. Ilara knelt at one of the consoles, brushing dust from the screen. Look at this, she said. These logs. They show something remarkable. The anomaly isn't just random. It's interacting with the research. It's learning from it. Yalin frowned. Learning. Or testing. She looked at him, uncertainty in her eyes. Maybe both. Whatever it is, it's intelligent. And it's curious about us. He took a deep breath. Then we need to approach carefully. We don't know its intentions. But one thing is clear, humans aren't passive. We don't just watch. We act, we adapt, and we survive. That's what we do, as the storm outside continued, relentless. A reminder of the harsh universe beyond Laron, yet inside the station. Two humans pressed forward, determined to understand the mystery that awaited them. Shadows may have lurked in every corridor, and strange shapes may have moved beyond sight. But Yalin and Ilara were united in purpose and in the darkness. The station itself seemed to pulse with awareness, as if acknowledging their determination. Humanity's light was not just physical, it was courage, curiosity, and resilience. That light shone brighter than any storm in the void. Tonight. Shadows danced in the corridors, mysteries whispered in the hum of machines, and two humans faced the unknown together. And somehow, Yalin knew this was only the beginning. The corridors of Lyranine were quiet, but the air felt charged, almost alive. Yalin and Ilara moved cautiously, their boots echoing against the metallic floors. The strange anomaly they had first noticed at the reactor and again in the storage bay seemed to follow them, as if the station itself were aware of their presence. Ilara Yalin whispered, pausing at a junction, we need to understand what we're dealing with. So far, it's interacted with us, but we haven't learned anything about its nature. Ilara nodded. Her fingers hovered over a tablet, her eyes scanning the corrupted logs they had recovered from the labs. It's learning, she said softly. From the research, from us, but it's subtle, not direct communication. Yet, the hum of the station shifted. It was no longer a mechanical sound, but almost musical. A resonance that filled the corridors and seemed to vibrate in their chests. Yalin instinctively placed a hand over his heart. It's sensing us, he murmured. They reached the observation deck again, the storm outside still raging. Lightning lit the swirling clouds of cosmic dust, and the distant stars blinked through the turbulence. Yalin felt a strange pull toward the view, as if the anomaly were guiding them to something. Suddenly, the panels on the walls began to glow again. Lines of shifting light coalesced into patterns, more complex than before. They moved toward Yalin and Ilara, forming shapes that resembled letters or symbols. Yalin stepped closer, careful not to touch them too abruptly. Can you read it? He asked. Ilara shook her head. Not yet, but I think it's trying to show us something. Maybe a map or a message. A tendril of light extended from the wall, hovering near Yalin. He reached out slowly, and the tendril moved with him. Almost like a living extension of the station, it pulsed with soft colors, each shift creating faint sounds in his mind. He realized these were not noises, but thoughts, an impression of awareness, curiosity, and caution. Alara gasped. It's intelligent. It's aware of us. And it's testing us. Testing us how? Yalin asked. The tendril recoiled slightly, then created a simple symbol in the era circle with intersecting lines. Yalin traced it with his finger, and the symbol glowed brighter, as if recognizing his touch. It's a form of interaction, Alara said, eyes wide. A simple code, maybe. It wants us to engage, to respond. Jalen's mind raced. They had been alone on this station, facing unknown forces, yet here was a conscious entity. Perhaps the very heart of the anomaly, inviting them to communicate. The thought was exhilarating and terrifying at once. Let's try something, he said. He drew a symbol of his own in the air, a simple triangle. The tendril pulsed in response, shifting its light to mirror his triangle. Slowly, a pattern of exchange emerged. They traced, the anomaly responded, and a rhythm developed, almost like a dance. Hours passed in this careful exchange. Each time they created a symbol, the anomaly responded, gradually increasing in complexity. Yalin and Alara discovered that it was not just intelligent but curious, observing their movements, gestures, even the way they thought. The station itself seemed alive, a network of consciousness that was part energy, part memory, and entirely alien. At one point, a new formation emerged, an outline resembling a human figure. The anomaly pulsed almost excitedly, then directed them to the main lab. Yalin and Alara exchanged a glance. It wants us to go there, Yolan said. They followed the glowing path, hearts pounding with anticipation. The lab, once cluttered and chaotic, now displayed an order that was almost artistic. Instruments and devices rearranged themselves subtly as the anomaly's light swept across the room. A console flickered on, showing streams of data that were clearer than before. Alara stepped forward, reading the sequences. It's organizing the research, she said, astonished. It's not random. It's trying to make sense of our work, of humanity. Yolan leaned over her shoulder. Humanity. Yes, she replied, her voice full of wonder. Look at the way it's connecting patterns. It's analyzing problem-solving methods, experimental design, even emotional responses. It's studying us. Yalin felt a swell of pride. Humans had always been explorers, thinkers, creators. Here, far from the safety of populated worlds, their ingenuity was being recognized by something entirely alien. Then we're teaching it, he said softly. In our own way, humanity is showing its strength, our curiosity, our courage, our resilience. Alara smiled, though her eyes still held concern. And that's what sets us apart. Even in the unknown, we adapt. We face challenges. We communicate. We survive. They spent hours interacting with the anomaly. Symbols, lights, and patterns flowed like a conversation. At times, the exchange felt almost playful. The anomaly created challenges for them, a puzzle in light patterns, a test of timing and observation. Every time they succeeded, it responded with pulses of light that seemed almost approving. You think it likes us? Yalin asked at one point, exhausted but exhilarated. Alara laughed softly, a sound that echoed strangely in the metallic lab. I think it respects us. And maybe it's fascinated by us. The storm outside began to calm, the lightning growing less frequent, the cosmic dust settling. Yalin realized that the anomaly's activity had mirrored the storm, reacting to the energy and turbulence outside. Now, with the storm easing, the station itself seemed to relax. The lights dimming to a gentle glow, Alara turned to him, eyes reflecting the softly pulsing lights. We've made contact, she said. Not just with the anomaly, but with something greater. Something that may be alive in a way we've never known. And it knows we exist. That's remarkable. Yalin nodded, feeling the weight of her words. And we've proven something too, that humans, even isolated and alone, can face the unknown. We adapt, we survive, we learn, and sometimes we teach. Standing in the center of the lab, surrounded by glowing symbols and soft hums of energy, the anomaly's light formed a circle around them, a quiet acknowledgement of their shared experience. Ilara stepped closer to Yolan. "Do you think it understands us?" she asked. "I think it understands more than we realize," he replied. "Maybe not like humans, but in its own way, it recognizes intelligence, creativity, courage, qualities that are uniquely ours." The realization filled both of them with awe. Here, at the edge of the galaxy, humanity's essence, its resilience, ingenuity, and adaptability was being observed by something entirely alien. It was a validation, a reminder that even in the vast, indifferent universe, humans left a mark, not just through technology or exploration, but through thought, courage, and connection. Hours turned into night. Though the concept of time felt strange aboard the station, Yalan and Ilara continued their careful communication, learning more with each passing moment. The anomaly created simulations, tests, and interactions that pushed their thinking, challenged their understanding, and deepened the connection. By the time they paused to rest, exhaustion heavy in their limbs, the station seemed almost calm. The anomaly retreated slightly, though faint tendrils of light lingered near them, like silent guardians. Yalan and Ilara exchanged a glance. Both understood the unspoken truth. This was not the end. It was a beginning of understanding, exploration, and perhaps friendship across species and matter itself. Yalan finally allowed himself a small smile. "We've faced the unknown tonight," he said softly, "and we've made it through together." Lara returned the smile. And that's what humans do. Alone or together, in storms or in silence, we endure. We explore. We connect. We survive. Outside, the storm had passed, leaving Lyranine bathed in a gentle violet light. Stars twinkled faintly through the dissipating cosmic clouds. The station's hum softened to a steady rhythm, almost content, almost alive as they prepared to rest. Both knew the next day would bring new discoveries, new challenges, and perhaps even deeper understanding of the anomaly. But for now, they had witnessed something extraordinary. The awakening of awareness in a place thought to be lifeless, and the recognition of humanity's unique place in the universe. In that moment, Yalan and Ilara realized that no matter how vast or strange the universe became, the human spirit's curiosity, courage, and resilience was a force to be reckoned with. And the anomaly, whatever it truly was, had learned that lesson. For the first time in months, they felt a quiet peace aboard the station. Humanity had faced the unknown, adapted, and thrived. And in the quiet, glowing corridors of Lyranine, something far greater than themselves had noticed. The calm after the storm was short-lived. Yalan and Ilara awoke to a subtle tremor running through the walls of Lyranine. The anomaly, which had seemed almost peaceful during the night, now pulsed with a brighter intensity, casting glowing patterns across the corridors. It was as if the station itself were waking, alert and expectant. "We should check the reactor," Yalan said, his voice steady despite the unease growing in his chest. "The readings were already strange last night. This could explain the tremor." Ilara nodded, adjusting her uniform. "And maybe the anomaly is trying to tell us something, or test us again." As they walked through the corridors, the light shifted in waves of color. Forming intricate patterns on the walls and floor, the station seemed alive, its energy flowing like a heartbeat. Each pulse resonated with them, both a warning and a challenge. Yalan paused at a junction. "Look," he whispered. Shadows in the corridor stretched unnaturally, forming shapes that resembled their own silhouettes. The station was mirroring them, creating illusions that made it difficult to tell what was real. Ilara took a deep breath. "It's testing our perception. It wants to see how we react under pressure." They pressed on, using handheld scanners to detect anomalies. The devices beeped frantically as they approached the reactor room. The energy core pulsed violently, and tendrils of light extended from it. almost like fingers reaching toward them. Zhao raised his hand in a calming gesture. Easy. Let's approach slowly. The tendrils reacted, recoiling slightly, then forming a series of symbols in the air. Ilara recognized some of the patterns from the night before. She began tracing them carefully, creating a conversation of light and gesture. Suddenly, the station trembled again. Panels fell from the walls, and sparks flew across the floor. A wave of energy surged outward, forcing them to shield their faces. When the light dimmed, they found themselves in separate illusions. Yalin was standing in a dark version of the corridor, while Ilara appeared in a glowing, distorted lab filled with floating instruments. Yalin, Ilara called out, her voice echoing strangely. I'm here, he shouted back, though his voice seemed distant. We're separate. It's testing us individually. They faced personal trials. Yalin saw visions of past failures, missions where he had lost crew members. Each image was vivid, almost real, pushing him to relive guilt and grief. Yet he drew strength from his training and resolve. He reminded himself that fear and loss were part of life. They didn't define him. Ilara, meanwhile, faced doubts about her scientific work. She saw visions of failed experiments, errors she had made, and colleagues who had questioned her methods. The anomaly magnified her insecurities, but she grounded herself in logic and perseverance. She remembered the discoveries she had made, the obstacles she had overcome, and the resilience that had kept her alive in isolation. Hours seemed to pass in these trials, though time felt distorted. The station tested their intellect, emotions, and instincts. They were forced to navigate illusions, solve puzzles created by light patterns, and make split-second decisions. Each success was acknowledged by pulses of energy that flowed through the corridors, a silent message of approval. Finally, the illusions faded. Yalin and Ilara found themselves standing together again, breathing heavily, but stronger than before. The station seemed to recognize their endurance. The anomaly's tendrils retreating slightly but remaining present, like a guardian watching over them. Zhao looked at Ilara. It wanted to see if we could handle fear, doubt, and uncertainty. And we did, Lara nodded. Humans are resilient. Even when everything seems against us, we adapt, we survive, and we learn. That's what it wanted to see our nature. The anomaly pulsed one final time, projecting images on the walls. They were not illusions, but messages, abstract forms that slowly began to make sense. Patterns resembling molecules, star maps, and energy flows intertwined with symbolic representations of human traits: curiosity, courage, creativity. Yalin stepped closer. It's cataloging us. Understanding humans, not just our actions, but our essence. Lara smiled faintly. And we're teaching it. In a way, our humanity is showing it how to perceive life. Their moment of reflection was interrupted by a new tremor. The station's energy core emitted a loud hum, vibrating through every wall and floor. Lights flickered wildly, and the temperature seemed to drop again. The anomaly's energy swirled, forming a massive, shifting figure in front of them. It was humanoid, composed entirely of flowing light. It radiated intelligence, curiosity, and power. It's showing itself, Yalin whispered. All at once, the figure extended a limb toward them. Yalin and Ilara instinctively reached out, and the contact was like touching liquid light. Information, sensations, and patterns of thought flowed into their minds, not in words, but in understanding. They felt the anomaly's awareness, its curiosity, and its desire to learn from them. Ilara gasped. It's alive, and it wants to know everything about us. About humans, Yalin nodded, a sense of pride swelling in his chest. Then let's give it what it needs. Let it see what humanity truly is. Over the next several hours, they engaged in a profound exchange. The anomaly presented challenges, logical puzzles, pattern recognition tests, and simulations that required teamwork, problem-solving, and intuition. Each time they succeeded, the entity's light pulsed, brighter and more vibrant than before. Through these trials, Yalin and Ilara discovered something extraordinary. The anomaly wasn't hostile. It was curious, testing them not to harm, but to understand. It recognized human ingenuity, resilience, and moral strength. Every decision they made, every risk they took, reinforced the idea that humanity was adaptable, clever, capable of facing the unknown. At one point, the anomaly created an illusion of a distant world. Mountains glowed with bioluminescent light, oceans shimmered with colors beyond comprehension, and skies swirled with cosmic storms. In the center of this world stood a human figure symbolically representing humanity itself, facing countless unknowns but unafraid. Alara whispered. It sees us as explorers, survivors, thinkers. Yalin smiled, and it respects us for it. That's incredible. Even an alien intelligence can recognize what makes us strong. The anomaly's figure shifted, merging its light with theirs, almost like a seal of acknowledgement. It projected visions of human history, struggles, achievements, acts of courage, and compassion. Yalin and Alara watched as humanity's essence was recorded, celebrated, and understood. Whatever this is, Alara said softly, it's acknowledging that humans are capable of more than just survival. We create, we innovate, and we endure. That's our strength, Yalon nodded, and it will remember us. Maybe it will share its knowledge with others, or at least preserve the understanding of humanity's spirit. As the anomaly's light slowly dimmed, returning the station to its normal glow, both of them felt a profound sense of accomplishment. They had faced fear, doubt, and the unknown, emerged stronger. The trials had tested them individually and together, proving their courage, intellect, and humanity. Jalen placed a hand on Elara's shoulder. We've passed its test, he said. Not because of technology or weapons or luck, but because of who we are. Humans are remarkable. Vilata smiled, eyes reflecting both relief and pride. And now it knows. Humanity has been witnessed, understood, and respected. Outside, the storm had finally ended. Lyranen's observation deck revealed a calm, star-filled sky. The cosmic clouds had cleared, and distant worlds shimmered faintly in the void. The station hummed softly, almost content. Its corridors glowing with residual energy, Jalien and Alara sat together in the quiet, exhausted but exhilarated. They had faced the unknown and triumphed, not through brute force, but through resilience, intelligence, and the uniquely human qualities that had allowed their species to explore the stars. It's remarkable, Yalon said finally. Even in isolation, in the face of an intelligence far beyond our own, we proved our worth. Humanity endures. Lara nodded, resting her head against the console. And maybe, just maybe, we've made a friend. For the first time in months, the station felt safe. The anomaly lingered faintly in the background. A presence that was no longer threatening, but observant, curious, and respectful. Yalin and Alara understood that their journey was far from over. But they had crossed a threshold, the awakening of understanding between humans and an alien. Consciousness, as they prepared to rest. The soft hum of Lyranine resonated like a heartbeat. And in that rhythm, Yalin realized something profound. Humanity's greatest strength was not technology, weapons, or exploration alone. It was courage, curiosity, and the ability to face fear and the unknown with integrity, creativity, and hope. Tonight, they had proven it. The morning light, or what passed for morning aboard Lyranine, was soft and pale, filtering through the station's reinforced windows. Outside, the remnants of the cosmic storm lingered as streaks of violet and silver in the distant sky. Yalin. Kor stood near the observation deck, watching the stars reappear one by one. He felt a quiet sense of pride. Alara Miles joined him, her steps light but steady, carrying a small tablet filled with the data they had recovered. The anomaly hasn't acted up since last night, she said softly. It's calm, almost peaceful. Yalin nodded. It's observing, but it knows we're here. I think it respects what we've shown it. They walked together through the quiet corridors, noting how the station had shifted subtly. Panels that had once flickered now glowed steadily. Equipment hummed normally. Even the reactor pulsed gently, no longer erratic. Lyranine felt alive, but in a different way now, where, intelligent and perhaps even grateful. Ilara paused at a lab console. "Look at this," she said. She pointed at the display where the anomaly had organized the previous research data. It wasn't just sorted. It had identified patterns, linked experiments, and even highlighted possible next steps. It's not just intelligent, it's learning from our science. From us, Yolan crouched to look. It's incredible. And it shows something important, that humans not just survive, but inspire. Even an alien intelligence can recognize what we're capable of. Lara smiled faintly. And maybe it can teach us too. If we pay attention, we can learn from it. It's not just observing, it's collaborating in a way. Their quiet reflection was interrupted by a soft vibration through the floor. The anomaly's presence made itself known once again, but this time it felt welcoming, even celebratory. Lights pulsed gently in rhythm with their steps, and the glow in the walls shifted into familiar patterns. The entity, as always, was alive, but now it seemed content. Jalen and Ilara exchanged a look. "It's acknowledging us," he said quietly. "All that we've done, our courage, our resilience, our curiosity, it sees us clearly now." Lara nodded. "Humans have always faced the unknown," she said. "From the first explorers on distant worlds to people like us here, we don't just react, we adapt. We learn. And that's what it respects." The anomaly projected a series of glowing symbols into the main lab. Yolan stepped closer, feeling the energy wash over him. For the first time, he felt like he could truly comprehend the being's intelligence. The symbols were abstract, yes, but they carried meaning. They represented understanding, respect, and perhaps even something close to trust. Ilara studied them carefully. It's like a message, a record of what it has learned from us, from humanity. Jalen's eyes softened. "We've made our mark. Not on the stars, not on planets, but on something entirely alien." They moved to the observation deck once again, where the stars now shone clearly. The cosmic dust that had swirled violently during the storm had begun to settle, revealing distant planets and faintly glowing nebulae. Yalen felt a profound connection to the universe, a sense that their actions, small as they might seem, had reached beyond humanity. "Ilara," he said, turning to her, "do you realize what this means? We've been tested by an intelligence far beyond our own, and we passed. It's not through weapons, not through technology, but through humanity." She smiled, her eyes reflecting the gentle light of the anomaly. "And it understands that. Our strength isn't just in survival, it's in our courage, creativity, and compassion. Even in isolation, we rise to meet the unknown. That's what makes us human." They spent hours reviewing the data the anomaly had preserved and shared. It had organized the research in ways that no human mind could have anticipated, revealing insights and connections that could advance human knowledge across the galaxy. Yalen and Ilara realized that this collaboration, unspoken yet profound, could change humanity's understanding of science, space, and even life itself. As night fell, the station's hum softened, no longer chaotic or threatening. The anomaly's light dimmed gently, almost as if it were preparing to rest. Yet faint tendrils of energy lingered in the corners of the lab, a quiet reminder of its presence and ongoing observation. Yalen and Ilara sat together in a quiet corner, exhausted but exhilarated. They had faced trials that tested not just their skills, but their hearts and minds. They had confronted illusions designed to challenge their deepest fears and doubts. They had survived, not through force, but through intelligence, resilience, and trust in each other. "We've accomplished something incredible," Yolan said, his voice soft. "This station, the anomaly, it's witnessed humanity at its best." Ilara nodded. "And it will remember us. Maybe it will share what it has learned with other beings, or maybe it will preserve it quietly. Either way, humans have proven themselves here." For a long time, they simply sat, watching the glow of the stars and the gentle pulses of light around the station. There was a serenity to the moment, a quiet understanding that they were part of something much larger than themselves. Finally, Ilara broke the silence. "No," she said, "even after all this, I'm not afraid anymore." not of the unknown, not of the anomalies, not of this station, because we've faced it. Together, Yolan smiled. Exactly. That's humanity. Alone or together, in darkness or in storms, we endure, we explore, we connect, we survive. And we leave a mark on everything we touch, even something alien and unimaginable. Outside, the sky shifted from the pale light of dawn to a soft twilight, casting liranine in hues of purple and gold. The station's walls glowed faintly, reflecting the anomaly's energy that now seemed calm, peaceful, almost proud. Alara looked out the observation window, then back at Yalan. "Do you think anyone will believe the story?" she asked, half-dashed smiling. Jalen chuckled softly. "Maybe not. But we don't need anyone to believe it. What matters is that we know. That humanity was tested and we proved our worth." They stood side by side, hands brushing briefly, sharing a moment of quiet triumph. The storm had passed. The anomaly had observed, tested, and respected them. And in doing so, it had revealed the essence of humanity: courage, ingenuity, and resilience, as they prepared to rest. The station seemed to hum a gentle, steady rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. Yalan placed a hand on the console, feeling the energy beneath his fingers. "We've made history tonight," he said quietly. "Not in the headlines, not on planets, but here, in this station, at the edge of the galaxy. Humanity has been recognized, understood, and respected." Alara nodded, her eyes shining with both fatigue and pride. "And we've learned, too, about ourselves, about courage, about trust, about what it truly means to survive and thrive." The anomaly's tendrils of light pulsed one last time, before retreating into the walls, leaving a gentle glow that would remain for as long as the station endured. Yalan and Alara looked at each other, sharing a silent understanding. This was only the beginning. The universe was vast, full of unknowns, but humanity's spirit had proven itself once again, and as the night deepened aboard Lyranine, to humans rested, knowing they had faced the unknown, embraced it, and emerged stronger. The anomaly had been awakened, and in turn, humanity had shone brightly, leaving a mark that no storm, shadow, or cosmic mystery could erase. For Yolan and Alara, the station was no longer a place of fear or isolation. It was a monument to human courage, intellect, and resilience, reminder that even at the edge of the galaxy, humanity could shine brightly, lighting the darkness with knowledge, compassion, and hope. In the quiet glow of Lyranine, the stars beyond the window, and the steady hum of the anomaly, one truth became clear. No matter how vast or strange the universe might be, humanity would endure, adapt, and leave its mark. Tonight they had proven it, and the universe had taken notice.